So we're here at LEAF 2012, and was it last year or a few years ago you started talking about Project Dream School?
Last year I had the opportunity, so last year's LEAF had the opportunity to talk about Project Dream School, what it is, and what we try to accomplish, and a lot of things happened since last year, and I think that's really interesting to find out. So I was asked this year to give an update on the status, what the project is about now, and what we have been doing, and what the current status is.
So where did you start this?
The project started in a car, basically, with me driving to a place where I had to give a talk, and that's about the impact of technology on kids. And I didn't have a car that day, so it's really something simple. I think serendipitous or something. The guy who drove me there, his name was Peter, and Peter turned out to be the head of a school. And so I did my talk, and there was also a small piece of Ken Robinson's talk, the famous TED talk on the only chance for the future is the creativity in kids thing. And then on the way back we started talking, and he told me about he was the principal of a school, and that he was going to build a new facility for a school. And then I said, "Can I help you?" And he said yes. And then since then it sort of exploded. So we organized a couple of sessions together. We talked for a year or more. And at the end, we had a kick-off meeting, including Ken Robinson, Jeff Jarvis, and John Moravec, also like educational reformers. And we had a project going. And basically, it was on two levels: really practical, helping out a school, because I think it's beautiful to have strategy, but it's also good to actually create something. I'm from a design perspective, so I really like to create things as well. And we had a Project Dream School. On top of that, basically to gain and gather inspiration, and also make cross connects with other initiatives as well. And that's basically the start of the project.
So you want a better school for your own children as well, right? Is that the goal?
Yeah. In this case, it's so true.
Yeah. It is true.
Yeah, the school where the school where we're working for now is a school in the city where I live, in the north of the Netherlands, so in a tiny place called Meppel. Nobody ever heard of it, but just to give you a bit of context, it's 130 kilometers away from Amsterdam, so
yeah,
then you know better where it is. And and my kids are now 2 and 5 years old. So
they're there.
Yeah, in the same city. So eventually they will go to this school. So I think that's a really key motivator to have. So if I screw up, I screw up in my own.
So you're experimenting with your own children? Not yet, but
now in a way, yeah, in a way.
But so schools need to be changed and improved like crazy, right? Why aren't anybody doing much about it?
I think it's not necessarily that nobody wants to do something about it. I think what's the shitty situation to have is that you had a starting point, right, where schools were for to begin with, but the context has changed beyond schools. And if you look at current days now, with all the technology and all the impact and where you can learn, learning is not the thing necessarily you do anymore in a specific building, in a relationship with a teacher, and you have a classroom full of kids, and you're transmitting your information and knowledge to kids, and they register that, and at the end they have the information and get a diploma. That's not a scenario anymore. And so the difficulty is also for teachers as well. They want also to do their best. So I got to know a lot of teachers since then, and they're craftsmen and passionate about the things that they do. But we also created a really big system with rules and legislation and all things that we cannot do anymore, like exams and all that stuff. And it really frustrates also how the process of learning is organized. So it's not so much the will of people not to want to change, but it's also basically a little bit they learned how to, because we always did it like this, and so we're also trying to find some room basically within the process. So you will always have evaluations, and I think that's a good thing, but you need more than that. You also need to develop skills for kids as well, and that's what we try to do. So it does not really matter how you gain the information when you have a test, but you can organize the journey to your knowledge in a different way, and still have exams. So basically that's what we're trying to accomplish.
So the school system is 100 years old or 200 years old.
True.
And are there any schools anywhere in the world that are changing that? Are you the most your project is the most innovative in the world, or is somebody else doing something?
No, Not at all, I would say.
No, not at all.
No, well, we're not the most innovative the project at all. But I think it's not necessarily the key thing. So there's a lot of good examples happening, and the fun thing is that there are also old institutions, basically, that are, like MIT is doing new things as well with MIT X, like distance learning, open courseware, and all that stuff. And you also have schools in the Netherlands as well that already do things in a new way, and the like theme-based learning and working in groups, and all focused on 21st century skills as well, and learn to present, learn to gain knowledge, digital skills, and the. I think in this case, what's interesting is that you have just one of many schools that has the will to change, and the big difficulty is how do you do that. So there are a lot of new initiatives, and I think new is nice because new is, but it's also a little bit easier because you can now have a plan and then develop it. And but we have those same plans and ambitions, but we have the context of 300 teachers, we have the context of 3,000 students, and all levels of education. So from below an IQ of 80 to really smart kids in the pre-university education as well. So it's basically a slice of society. And how do you develop programs or learning or exchange for that? I think that's a key crucial question. So what we try to do with this project is not to choose for something new, as in we're going to do like a big experimental lab kind of project, but we try to just help a regular school, like 99% of the rest of the schools is, to make that change. And I think that's something that's really tough, hard work, but I think there's more to gain there. Just like in housing, right? So if you now look at buildings, there are more. All things become empty offices, and you have a lot of buildings that have no use anymore, and it's more difficult to redevelop existing stuff than just building a new office. And it's the same kind of analogy, I guess. If we would have all the possibilities in the world, yeah, then we maybe would have made different decisions. But context is also determining what we're doing.
But children are quite important, right? And
it's all about them, yeah.
So it should be kind of a huge priority for society to improve the education.
Yeah.
But they're stuck, no?
True. Yeah. Well, that's also a thing. Frustrating would be a big thing, but in a way, it is. I think what's interesting to see now, also from commercial projects I work for, is that you see a shift in thinking. So obviously, because there's a lot of crises going on, like the south of Europe is also bankrupt and things like that. So you see more like interconnectedness between people, but also people also see how the world is intertwined, and that things need to be different. And so when we started with Project Dream School, it was a little bit less, but you now see also a focus shift within organizations and companies more. That it's moving from like energy-saving light bulbs to people development, and I think that's a really cool thing to say. And I think within Project Dream School we have an opportunity here to actually start where the start is. So in the process where kids have to make decisions, have all the possibilities still. So we start at the beginning. I think that's the proper position to be in. It's also not really that difficult to involve companies or people, because people really think, okay, we're going to help a school. Well, that's fun and nice. So yeah, I want to help and join in. So it's not that difficult to have people involved in this case. But I totally agree with you. The school should be the place like a catalyst for change. People should go there because they want to be there. And if we say kids are the most important things that we have, and we all think the same of our kids, just like I do it for my own kids, right? Then the schooling system, or not really the system, but schools need to change of learning how to gain knowledge and be ready for the context you live in, that we should do different or organize differently. You see, that's true.
So let's say you have a website where people can post ideas or post opinions what they think the Dream School should be, right?
Yeah.
And let's say I think it's a mix between one laptop per child and Khan Academy. So where should I go to make it happen? Where should where can people go? When is it happening?
It's already happening, and the funny thing is, I just got the question as well, so I want to find out more about the project. And the only thing that I found is a website where I only see statements by everybody who wants to contribute, basically answering the question my dream school is and describing what it is. And I think the interesting thing to see is that the phrase dream school basically makes people think, but also all the answers are totally different. So dream school for people is a lab, a dream school for people are a place where people can be happy and learning doesn't feel like work and stuff like that. I think that's interesting to find out. If you actually talk about what does a dream school look like, it's an unanswerable question basically. But there are different ways. I think determining on what your goals are, there are different ways to do that. Khan Academy obviously is a good example. Just like MIT and the iTunes University, iTunes U, and all those places are good places to go to. And the thing is that currently, in order to get a job in the context where I live in, like the Western society, you need to have a diploma and stuff like that. And it's really, I'm from a creative background, so for me, I can just show work and get work because of it. But if you have different ambitions and you want to go into accountancy, for instance, then you need diplomas and you need all that stuff. And if you could do Khan Academy, you gain the knowledge, but you cannot have a portfolio to show you that you can do good accountancy. And I think that's a difficulty. So it's more how do things come together and intertwine. And you have the function of a building still for people coming together. Just as here as lived, it's good to see people and exchange in informal ways, but how will that blend look like? And so it's already happening at different places, but it's more, it takes time, just like any kind of technology, to come together and make sense, right? So touch technology is already there since the 60s, but since iPhones, we actually think it's innovative and useful. I think in this case it's the same thing.
So your children are 2 years and 5 years, so really have to hurry to fix school.
Yeah, it's an urgent situation. Yeah. It was also stressful on the other side, because my daughter is 5 and already going to school. And so I bring her to school, and then you have the situation where you have to choose a school which is best. While in the city where I live, the choice is limited, right? So you have to choose between what's available. And it's difficult. There's some better schools somewhere else, and then you also have to make different decisions on am I going to drive 50 kilometers every day, one direction and back? So we chose the best school within the context and what's available. But it's such a tough subject to work on, and just like I said yesterday, and it's a famous quote, so big battles small enough to matter, but big enough to matter, but small enough to win. So we're now focusing on the 12 to 18-year-old group, because that's the place where kids themselves have to make the biggest decisions. And it's also a coincidence because of this school. I think it's more educating parents in the years before, from 0 to 12 years old, to help them understand that they have an influential role in the rest of the development of the learning what their kids are going to do. And I think that's also a big thing, because parents work within companies, right? And companies are part of society, but most companies currently are still fairly ignorant about human development and about all that stuff. And so there's so many frontiers to fight on. So we cannot do them all. So but there are really good initiatives as well, working on different frontiers, and hopefully everything attributes to a better school learning ecology or something.
Cool. Yeah. So looking forward to next year's Lift, where you can come and say we've succeeded and everything's awesome.
Yes and no. I think next year can be another update on things that we've accomplished, but learning is an active act, right? So within the process of helping this school, we're also learning. So we have a goal, we know where we want to go to, but society, technology and the context also changes rapidly, so you cannot really predict what's going to happen tomorrow. And if Google just simply doesn't have electricity anymore, the world will be fairly different, right? And if Apple decides to stop as a company and give their 100 billion to good causes, it's interesting so what the impact would be. And we simply cannot predict that as well. But on the other side, it's a learning process. So we look at this project as a journey on our way, and learn along the way, and with all the path that we walk, continuously look around and see what we can learn and accomplish. And I think that would be the biggest achievement, is to don't see a school as a passive place where you go to and to get knowledge, but you can see it as an open place that has a good interconnection with society, and enables kids and teachers and parents to constantly make open connections to what they think, believe, but also exchange in the. So I think I can be here every year to give an update on it, because it will never end. It's just we just begun, and I think if you have versions like in the Web 1 and Web 2.0 thing, I think we just have a 0.15 beta version of the project, and there will never be a 1, because it's never finished, and that's a good thing. But also it's a mindset change, basically. So we cannot be, when we are done, the world has changed already. So we have to be continuous. So that if we can make the place where we start the school where we're working for, a place that can self-sustain itself in this kind of thinking, then we did something well, hopefully. But it's really complicated as well. It's people stuff, and people are well. Sometimes they think one thing, and the next day they change their minds. So that makes it really tough. And it's a bigger thing than that as well. So you also need to change, often have a different look at, not necessarily change, but you need to look critical about how you educate teachers, right? It's a system. So you have schools where teachers get educated to teach. So that's a change. So where in the chain do you start with the change, basically? And it's fascinating to see that there are really good intentions, but how does it actually work and make a difference? That's totally something else. So would be looking forward to next year to give another update. And but mission accomplished will never work. I think only this particular school, there will be a new building. It will be finished in 2014. Then there will be a migration of the schools coming to one place. Then hopefully the context is good for people to enjoy education then. But I only can be happy when my kids, so when my daughter is 12, goes to this school, so that's in 7 years' time, and she can be there for 6 years, so 13 years from now, when she goes to higher education, if it still exists in that time, or gets a job. I don't know what jobs look like then, and she can say, looking back, it was a really good time that helped me being myself, but also giving something for society. Then I know I succeeded, but it might take 15 years to find out. I don't know.